that we're supposed to. For those of you who I have not met, my name's Craig VanSandt. I'm privileged to hold the David W. Wilson Chair in Business Ethics here at UNI. And I want to just say a few brief words about the conference today and what you can expect. First of all, I want to take the opportunity to thank David Wilson for his generous support of the Business Ethics Chair here. Mr. Wilson is a UNI alumnus, majored in philosophy while he was here, and is now the owner of one of the largest privately held networks of car dealerships in the country. His area is out in the Arizona, Southern California region. But his idea has been to help both business students at UNI to understand that there are ethical issues in business, and to help philosophy students realize that the practicalities of making a living and doing those things are important as well. But I just want to take the time to thank him for his support. I also want to thank two other entities on UNI's campus who are co-sponsoring this event. One is the Center for Energy and Environmental Education. You will hear its director momentarily, Kamyar Inshayan, and the other is UNI's Center for Academic Ethics. Both of those entities have helped organize this and been a great help during it, and I want to thank them. Second, I really want at this point to thank all of the speakers who have made the effort to come here today. When the idea for this seminar germinated, I knew I didn't have the funding or the resources to pay a whole bunch of people. And I have been amazed at the willingness and almost eagerness the speakers have accepted the invitation to come here. None of the speakers that you will hear today are being paid by UNI. None of them are having their travel expenses reimbursed by UNI. This is entirely an effort on the speakers' part to be here and share their knowledge with us. And so I really want to thank their willingness to be here. We've tried in inviting people to get as broad a mix of speakers as we can. You will hear environmentalists, economists, legal experts, people who represent employee unions, a whole broad range, legislators. So the purpose of this seminar, as we have thought it, is not to advocate for one side or another, although I'm sure that will happen during the day. Individuals will advocate their position. But as a whole, this conference is geared towards providing as broad a range of information as we can, so that you, the audience, can get as clear a picture of these projects and of energy production as possible. Third, I want to thank those of you who have signed up to attend this. Again, in talking with some of my co-sponsors about this, we see this as kind of grassroots citizenship. These are projects that will affect everybody in Iowa, and the efforts that we make up front to become better informed about them, I think, will make, in some way, Iowa a better society. And let me go back to one of the points I made earlier about this being a free exchange of ideas. It seems to me that one of the primary purposes universities should serve, especially state-supported schools like UNI, is as a resource for people in the state to learn about things. One of our speakers today, as I was pontificating about that on the phone, said, yeah, universities should be marketplaces for ideas. And that stuck with me for a couple of months now, and I think that's what we're trying to do here today. My hope is that when you leave the seminar today, if you describe it to somebody, your description will be something like, I learned a lot of stuff I didn't know. I have better ideas about how these projects will affect life, and I feel better prepared to make an informed decision. That, to me, is the goal. So, just a few housekeeping items. The standard, please turn your cell phones off. We have speakers who have spent time and effort getting here and have things they want us to say. We should make sure that we can hear them. Second, as you can see in your programs, we have coffee breaks scheduled for 10:45 and 2:30. Those are available to everybody attending the conference. As you saw coming in, we're in the Mocker Union. If coffee or water isn't good enough, there's all kinds of other choices out there, but that's on your nickel, not mine. So, and I will also say, because of how many speakers agreed to come, this schedule is way more packed than I originally thought it was going to be. So our lunch hour has been shaved to 45 minutes. So you may want to consider, that's efficiency, Hugh. But you may want to consider our options out here in the Union for lunch. And I've been assured by the administration of the Mocker Union that there will be plenty of food. They won't run out. And finally, if any of you are Wi-Fi junkies, there is free Wi-Fi available on UNI's campus. If you just open it up and then click on ATT Wi-Fi, it'll ask you to agree to the terms and conditions, but that is available. Okay, so I want to talk just a little bit about why this seminar came about. First of all, as you all know, we've got a really interesting juxtaposition of projects proposed. We've got the Dakota Access Oil Pipeline, which wants to transport oil from the drilling fields in North Dakota over to Illinois. And so we're looking at the viability, the advisability of transporting what I'll characterize as the established means of energy production, fossil fuels. We also have a clean energy wind turbine high voltage electric transmission line being proposed. Both of those projects have supporters, both of them have detractors, and you'll hear from both of those today. But one of the things that has occurred to me as I've been trying to contact people and publicize this event is the question, why the ethics of energy production? I've had several people actually ask me, what does ethics have to do with this? And nobody seems to be puzzled by the idea that there are economic factors that need to be thought about, environmental, employment, legal, and so on. But the ethical issue seems to stump a lot of people. Well, to me, that's a very simple answer, because these projects have the potential to affect just about everybody in Iowa. And anytime your decisions affect other people, that's an ethical issue, because how we treat others matters. But beyond that, I want to also note that there are some more complex reasons for that. One of the ones that I want to bring up is a gentleman named Jonathan Haidt, who is he's actually a psychologist. His PhD is in psychology, but he now teaches at the New York Stern School of Business, New York University Stern School of Business. He's done some really interesting research on the psychological bases of ethics. And one of the things that he has found, and other research has supported this, is that those on the politically liberal side of the aisle tend to look at ethical issues in a different way than those who are more conservative. People, according to this research, who would classify themselves as more liberal see ethical issues primarily in terms of harm to others and fairness. Whereas the more conservative, self-identified conservative people tend to look at ethics in terms of sanctity, loyalty, authority, and so on. And so one of the things that gives me hope about a seminar like this is if we can get beyond the kind of the, what do they call it, the sound bites of environmentalism and the sound bites of business, we might find that we're talking about many of the same things. And then the other thing that I'd like to point out is that another gentleman who's done a good bit of research in ethical issues is named Rushworth Kidder. Unfortunately, he has passed away now. But he makes a distinction between what he calls ethical dilemmas, those right versus right choices that we have, where you can justify either side on ethical grounds, versus what he calls moral temptations, right versus wrong decisions. And I think what's important there is he says that in these ethical dilemmas, the right versus right, those dilemmas tend to fall into four categories. And I just want to mention two of them because I think they affect what we're talking about today. One is individual versus group, which certainly when we look at issues of eminent domain and use of private property for public projects, we see that individual versus group being played out. And the other is short-term versus long-term. You know, there are many reasons to like both of these projects because of the short-term employment aspects. We also have long-term questions about their effects overall. So they play out in many ways. Suffice it to say at this point that ethical issues are critical to both of these projects and to the idea of energy production in general. So I'll conclude my comments there, and I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce our next speaker, Kamyar Anshayan. Kamyar is the director of UNI's Center for Energy and Environmental Education. He is an engineer with graduate degrees in thermodynamics, solar energy, climatology, and agriculture. He knows way more about this stuff than I do. He has launched the UNI local food program in Cedar Falls and often consults with communities on strengthening their local food economies. He also teaches environmental studies at UNI. So with that, I'd like to introduce Kamyar. Thanks.